I'm sorry, that's all.
My heart was leaping because I could hear the voice of my beloved teacher, so for me it was, but it's my personal moment. Anyway, let's follow. The next step was, which was also in the video, was the reference to Prajna Paramita in 25,000 lines, when three nuns are chanting in front of the altar, and one of them is shaking shakujo. Okay? And the next step is praising the qualities of Ananda, the gratitude for nuns' indebtedness to him for enabling them to become renunciants. The chant says, great teacher of women's ordination, praise various aspects of Ananda. The gratitude, profound gratitude to Shakyamuni is expressed for his hearing Ananda's plea to please somehow recognize your mother. The ritual acknowledges that when the Buddha heard this, he accepted the request. It then stresses that when the women heard this, they became ecstatic from their hearts. Together the nuns say, we give praise and gratitude, prostrate and chant praise to Shakyamuni. The following is a very short ritual, Anantan, which is performed on every 7th of the 7th month. That's the monthly performance, monthly celebration of the ritual. We won't be going into details. On page 8 of Dr. Arai's paper, you can find all the explanation. After all the ceremonies end, Aoyama Roshi stresses that Ananda is responsible for us having Buddhist scriptures based on the Buddha's teaching. She, my teacher, and the person who was doing the commentary, she did not reiterate the issue of nuns' ordination. However, Dr. Arai writes in her paper, she does not have concrete proof that performing this ritual resulted in the nuns fighting for and winning equality in the sect regulation. She does not think it was mere coincidence that the nuns who won the equality are the same nuns who revived this ritual of gratitude. Furthermore, through evidence she gathered in surveys and interviews of these sotos and nuns, it is clear that gratitude is central to nuns' attitude to responding to their circumstances. They have effectively gained numerous opportunities and overpowered the male-dominated sect institution with their practice to turn events into opportunities to be grateful. Their gratitude served as a powerful tool that enabled them to transform their circumstances of inequality into equality. Thank you very much, and I thank you, Dr. Arai, for preparing this paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our third speaker is Esther Yangji. She graduated from Venice University and did her thesis on a Chinese nunnery. She lived for 1 year in mainland China from 1995 to 1996 and is currently an assistant at the Chinese Department of Venice University. Her field of study is Buddhism.
Yes. So, good morning to everyone. I first have to thank Sakyadita and particularly Venerable Karmaleska to invite me here. So that is my first speech in English. I hope you will be patient and try to understand and follow what I'm saying. The subject of my paper is a nunnery sited in China, in mainland China, where I've been studying for about 1 year between 1995 and 1996. This nunnery is not a typical Chinese nunnery. It is the only nunnery in Chinese territory that follows the Gelugpa Tibetan tradition. So, since I don't have so much time, I will skip some parts. I want to focus, on one hand, on the history of the nunnery, so as to provide you some hints of what it could be like, the situation, what's like the situation of a monastery in China during the 50 years of the Communist Party. And then, if I have time, I will try to present what this particular nunnery is like, what's the everyday life there, and what's the practice. So Tape21, literally the Iron Statue Monastery, is sited in Chengdu City in Sichuan province, which is famous in China for being a very devout Buddhist province. It is the only nunnery in China following the Gelugpa Tibetan tradition, its founder being Venerable Nanhai, a Chinese monk who devoted himself to spreading Tibetan Buddhist teachings in China. The nunnery has now been established for about 50 years. Sited in Chinese territory, it has been influenced by Chinese Buddhism, particularly in the schedule of everyday life, in the religious calendar, and in others. Since the nunnery asserts to be following the Tibetan school, the Gelugpa Tibetan school, in what they define the content, the substance of their practice, and in fact their everyday meditation, the two chanting services, as well as other teachings of tantric nature, are all of a Tibetan origin and having been conferred during the 40s of this century by Venerable Nanhai to the first nuns of the community. Now something about the history. Tape21 Monastery was built about 3 centuries ago. According to the annals of Huai'an district, that means of Chengdu district, in 1590, a statue of Sakyamuni Buddha was dug up in the place now occupied by the nunnery. In order to worship the holy image, they built a monastery to host it. That was named the Tape21 Monastery of the Iron Statue. For more than 3 centuries, Tape21 was a monk's monastery of Chan tradition. In the early 40s, it became property of the neighboring Jinthas, another monastery that in 1938 had been converted by Venerable Nanhai to the Gelugpa practice. Since among the devotees that gathered in Jinthas to listen to Venerable Nanhai preaching, there were many nuns, the master decided they should live in Tape21. In so doing, he founded the first and till now the only only Gelugpa nunnery in Chinese territory. He charged Venerable Nonyen to lead the nunnery, and she has been its abbess since then. Okay. The nunnery has gone through various vicissitudes following the changes of the government policy towards religion in the country. During the first 15 years of People's Republic of China, about 30 nuns lived in Tape21. They had to work in the field to sustain themselves. That was the main change introduced by the Buddhist party. But still they had time for their practice, which followed the teaching of Nanhai, so was of Tibetan nature. Since they were nuns of Tibetan tradition, but they were Chinese, they began to study Tibetan language, and some of them began to translate Tibetan works in Chinese, particularly Nonyen, the abbess, Venerable Nonyen, that has translated about 6 books, Tibetan Buddhist books, one of which of tantric nature, into Chinese. Okay, in 1966, at the onset of the Cultural Revolution, almost all the nuns left the monastery. They had to leave it because they were citizens of urban areas, and Tape21 is in a rural area. So according to the government, they could not live there, but had to either to go back to their birthplace or to go to a nunnery sited in an urban area. So some of them disrobed and went back to their birthplace. They told me everyone was very scared at that period. But others followed Venerable Nonlien and moved to Ai Tang Tang Nunnery, sited in the center of Chengdu City. They stayed there till 1979, living side by side with workmen, working in nearby factories or in their workshop established by the government in the monastic building. However, as far as I know, so that's what I say, in their spare time, they could still devote to Buddhist practice. During the Cultural Revolution, Tiesianse was occupied by 8 farmer families and by an elementary school. I use the word occupy because that's the translation of the word they used to define this presence of the farmers there. At the beginning, 8 nuns were permitted to stay in the nunnery because they were citizens of rural areas, but they left it soon. Some of the buildings and holy images of the monastery were heavily damaged, like the Sakyamuni iron statue that names the monastery. Actually, this statue had the head cut away, I don't know what to say. So, in 1979, there was a change in the government policy towards religion. Since freedom in religious belief was restored, monks and nuns could return to their previous life. The larger part of Tiesianse was returned to Nonlien and her community. As soon as they went back to the nunnery, the nuns began restoring the damaged buildings and Buddha images, helped in this by government funds. Reconstruction has taken about 5 years, and by 1985, the nunnery began running smoothly again. During these 5 years, in 1983, the Sichuan Buddhist High Degree Institute for Bhikshunis was established in Tiesianse. It is the first, until now, the only institution of higher learning for Bhikshunis in China. Tiesianse is a closed monastery, as many others in China. The definition closed monastery is contradictory. Sometimes it depends, it is a monastery is closed because of some political reason. Some other times it's because of religious reason. I mean, political, that means that the government doesn't want people, devotees and foreigners to go there. And with a religious reason, I mean that it's the monastery community itself that doesn't want people to go in and interrupt their practice. Usually these monasteries are dedicated to meditation, Chan meditation. So Tiesianse, anyway, is a closed monastery. This means that it is not open to lay people and devotees to go in for their devotions. While other monasteries, as for instance Ai Tao Tan Nunnery, welcome outside people to attend their everyday practice, like meditation and psalmody, and to make their devotion to the Buddha, you seldom see devotees inside Tiesianse walls. Lay worshippers are discouraged from coming to the nunnery because of its belonging to the Tibetan tradition. The nun's everyday practice is of tantric nature and can be performed only by initiated disciples. Moreover, even if not initiated devotees could still attend the chanting services, it would not be comprehensible to Chinese Buddhists. Here I have to add that I had some problems because of the closed nature of the monastery to go in for my research, but finally I had the permission by the government religious department, and so I could do it. I never slept there, and according to the department, the religious department, I could even not eat with the nuns. Then we ate together. There was no problem actually, but. So that's the situation. So nowadays, there are more than 60 nuns living in Tiesianse. 40 of them are young students who enter the nunnery to attend a 3, 6, or 9-year course in the Buddhist institute organized inside it. While some of the nuns stay in the nunnery after graduation, the majority of them leave it to return to their previous nunneries or to any other Buddhist institution of China. The majority of them go back to their birthplace or to the previous monastery to establish new institutions, new schools for nuns. Furthermore, in summer, many nuns come from other nunneries to pass the summer retreat with Venerable Longyan, as to have the chance to listen to her preaching. Venerable Longyan is considered by Chinese Buddhists as the most outstanding bhikshuni in contemporary China. As Venerable Longyan once told me, these are ways to go on spreading Gelugpa practice among Chinese Buddhists, as it was the will of our Lama Nanhai. Okay. So I will skip the part concerning Venerable Nanhai and Venerable Longyan. I just wanted to mention that one of the reasons, reasons why Venerable Longyan is so famous among Chinese Buddhists, also everywhere in China, is that she resurrected in China the correct way to confer ordination, that is known in Chinese as Arpusangje. Is it? Okay. And as you probably know, it was very frequent during the history of the Chinese Bhikshuni Sangha that ordination was conferred only by monks. And it was like this in China since the end of since the beginning, it seems, of this century. She decided she would resurrect this ritual before the government, the communist government went to power in China. And then she could not do it because, as you probably know, ordinations were not more permitted in China. There were just very few till 1979. She fulfilled her project finally in 1981, conferring ordination according to the right ritual to 21 nuns in Naitautan Nunnery, and since then she has participated to almost every bhikshuni ordination in China. So I thought this was important to mention since the bhikshuni issue is so important at this conference. So do I have time? Okay. So I will speak a little bit about everyday life in Tiesiansan Nunnery. As soon as one enters Tiesiansan Nunnery, one becomes aware of its particular nature and can perceive that elements of different Buddhist tradition coexist in it, namely the Chinese and the Tibetan tradition. One meets Chinese nuns dressed in yellow robes. Yellow is a color which is absent from the Chinese traditional Buddhist robes, being instead the color of yellow manjushri, the main idam, deity of the community. These robes are cut in the typical Chinese style, so that's really unusual. I think they are the only nuns dressed with this kind of robes. Walking around the monastery, one can see halls, statues, images, religious objects in Tibetan style, disposed side by side with others in Chinese style. The main hall of the monastery, the Taxiongdian, is a typical Ming time monastery building, but it is organized inside as Tibetan Buddha halls. Next to halls clearly belonging to the Chinese tradition, you then find a Tashe Dian, which is the hall devoted to the cult of Lama Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelugpa school. Life in Tiesiansan presents the same coexistence of Chinese and Tibetan elements, with a prevalence of the former in the structure this is the way the nuns themselves define it. That means in the auto-organization of activities, and a prevalence of the latter in the content, that means in the religious practice. The nuns' offices belong to the Chinese monastic tradition. Their monastic names are taken from ancient Chinese gathas, or jie, as it is common in China. And Chinese names are also given to the various activities that make up the monastic day. Everyday life in Tape21 is organized according to the usual schedule of Chinese monasteries. That means that they have the five major activities, which are called in Chinese Wu Tang Gong Ke, the five devotions, or the devotions of the five halls. They have 2 chanting services, a meditation session, 2 vegetarian meals that are consumed according to the Chinese Buddhist ritual and are vegetarian, strictly vegetarian, and the recitation of the monastic vows in the morning. Even the religious calendar is mainly Chinese, but for a few days, as the days devoted to Nanhai Fashe, to their Lama, to their Idam Manjushri, and to Lama Tsongkhapa, the anniversaries of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas celebrated by the community are the same as in any other Chinese monastery and follow the Chinese lunar calendar, not the Tibetan one. But the rite performed on religious feasts, namely the Hui Gung, the Tsog offer, is of Tibetan origin, like the meditation and the 2 scriptures chanted in the morning and evening services. Besides the already mentioned events of the religious calendar, the nuns celebrate the Ulambana festival, or a festival of hungry ghosts, which is typical of Chinese Buddhism. They observe very strictly the summer retreat, and they follow the custom of reciting the Pratimoksha vows twice a month, as it is prescribed in the Vinaya. The Vinaya is conferred to the nuns according to the Dharmagupta tradition, which is observed in China, while Tibetan Buddhists observe the Mula Sarvastivada tradition. Venerable Nanhai himself was conferred the Dharmagupta vows. He claimed that there was no real difference in the various editions of the Vinaya, perceiving in their great similarity the heart of the Vinaya as was taught by the Buddha. I wanted just to mention, maybe I have time, I just want to mention what the Sichuan Buddhist High Degree Institute for Bhikshun is like. So the students attend all religious activities of the nunnery. In addition, they attend 5 hours of lesson a day. Studying subjects like Buddhist Vinaya, Dhyana, and Prajna, Buddhist literature, Buddhist history of China and of other Buddhist countries, ordination ritual, doctrines of the various Buddhist schools, ancient and modern Chinese, English, Tibetan language, psychology, history, and of course, that's mainland China, politics. The Institute offers 3 3-year courses, a junior course, a senior course, and a postgraduate course. Also in the Institute's programs, one finds that Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism are mingled together. While the first course students study mainly Chinese Buddhism, the senior course is organized like the Tibetan Buddhist schools for Geshe, and together with the postgraduate course offers lessons in Tibetan language and on Tibetan Buddhist work. Okay, I don't have time to speak about the practice, but I've already said that it's Tibetan, and I think that's enough. Okay, thank you.
Ordination is Woodwall. She is a Korean bhikshuni who completed her MA at Dongguk University on the topic of samadhi. Woodwall.
Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm not a complete fluent English, so you need attention to my speaking. I belong to Joge order, which is a representative order in Korea. We have 13 orders in Korea, but most last orders are from Joge order. Why bhikshu or bhikshunim become to married, they move to the other order. So most representative order in Korea is Joge order. I belong to Joge order. Joge is the name of a mountain which is in China, where the sixth patriarch lived. Our main teaching is Zen. In Japanese they say Zen, Chinese they say Chuan. In Korea we call Sun. Our first Dharma teacher is Bodhidharma, and the sixth Dharma teacher is Henan, who lived in China about AD 6th century, and we received that teaching now. I would like to introduce the ordination of Korean bhikkhuni. Bhikkhuni, Buddhist nun. We have 4 steps to become a bhikkhuni. The first step is ascetic. Ascetic must serve for temple more than 1 year, and for ascetic life, they must clean toilet, clean dharma hall, wash or nuns' clothes like that. They must serve all kinds of things. The second is Samini. Samini is maybe Sanskrit or Pali Saminera, I'm not sure. Samini is we receive 10 precepts. In order to become Samini, we must decide the teacher who observe our nun's life. After decide the teacher, we can be Samini. The third step is to become Shikchamana. After 3 years pass, become Samini, we can be Shikchamana. And the last step, the fourth step is bhikkhuni. In order to become bhikkhuni, we need 10 retreats or must learn Mahayana Buddhist canon. In Korea, we have 2 times retreat in a year. One is summertime, 3 months. We cannot go out the temple, and the schedule is very tight. You must keep them. So in order to become bhikkhuni, it takes more than 6 years. And second, I wanted to introduce the education of a system of Mahayana Sutra. It needs more than 5 years, but nowadays it's become shortened. 4 years enough. First 1 year, you must learn the etiquette of monks or nuns. And for 2 years, we must learn the way of meditation. Our habit is, as you know, we forget easily, so we must recite every day how to do the way of meditation. The third way to learn Mahayana Sutras. The most important sutra in Korea is Diamond Sutra. Maybe Sanskrit is Vajra Sutra. Vajra Sutra. So, in my experience, through the education of sutras, I could become forget myself because through this education term, it's not permitted personal life. We live limited area and later like that personal life are not permitted. So we live together in big hall and sleep together, eat together, learn together. So personal life is not permitted. So like that hard training, in my experience, I could remove my personal bad habit and I could forget about my own habit like that. And the third, I want to also introduce the schedule of Korean Zen meditation room. Usually in Korean monks and nuns in meditation hall, they get up 3 o'clock in the morning. And from 15:03, we began the morning ceremony. And from 4 till 5, we have a morning meditation. And from 5 to 6 is free time, but most nuns and monks bow before Buddha, usually 108 bow, some 500 bow, like that. 6 o'clock in the morning is breakfast. And from 7 till 10 is morning meditation. From 10:30 to 11 is noon chanting. In this time, we offering rice to Buddha, make rice to Buddha. And 11 o'clock is lunch time. From 1 p.m. to 4 is meditation time. And 5 p.m. we have dinner. We belong to Mahayana Buddhism, so we have dinner because I think it's cold weather. It's difficult to endure without eating. So we light dinner, not big dinner. 6 p.m. we have evening ceremony, evening chanting. And from 6 and in order to become nun, we must have 10 retreat or must learn Mahayana Sutra. After this course, we can go university. But in order to go university, we must permitted by our teacher. In my case, my Zen master permitted to learn more, so I went to university and I finished my MA, and this year I finished my PhD. And I give you some thinking of me. I began to participate this conference from 1991 in Bangkok. Whenever I participate this conference, I feel two kinds of things. One is how lucky I became in Korea, because we can have a chance to training like Bigo, and we can also have a chance to education, to learn Mahayana Buddhism. And second thing is, in Korea, most important school is belong to Joge order. So our main thing is to become enlightened one. But through this conference, I could learn confession. We must share our experience to others, and we must also have attention to others' life. So I very thank of who made this conference. And second, I wanted to speak to you about, in order to respect from society as a norm, we must have the elements to be expected. I think first one is becoming nun must be young age. Young age can learn Dharma and practice time. Second, we must hard training course in order to remove our less bad habit. And we must be educated. In Korea, most of people graduate university. So nun and monks must go university in order to balance to society. And though I'm nun in Korea, I teach Buddhist monks in the university, and we can also give Dharma talking to lay people. In Korea, Buddhist nun, especially bhikkhuni, is the same position to bhikkhu. So I think in order to respect to society, from society, we must have elements to be respected. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That's wonderful. Our last speaker will be Shui Mun, a bhikshuni born in Singapore, and she is from Fo-Guang-Shan, the largest temple in Taiwan, and she is currently living in Bodh Gaya and is organizing the International Bhikshuni Ordination in February. So we're very pleased to have her with us. And Shui Mun.
Good morning, thank you, colleagues, audience in Dharma. I was asked to give a speech about my experience in Taiwan this morning during tea break, during breakfast. So I will have a very brief introductions of what I know in Taiwan. Yes, I was built in Singapore, and I ordained in Taiwan. You may be wondering why. For not less than 10 years, I practiced in Singapore, and I stay most of my times in the temple, also at one of the oldest temple in Singapore, the Shuangling Temple. And I follow two teachers. One is from Indonesia, and he asked me twice, "Do you want to become a nun?" I have told him, "I'm waiting for my times." And I followed another teacher for at the same place for 3 years. But it was in the later parts when I decided I want to become a nun. But the problem is that in Singapore, the monk status are higher than the nun status of what I know. Most monasteries are run by monks, and a few nuns I know, they took their ordination in Taiwan, and when they return to Singapore, they don't have a permanent place. They do not have their teacher in Singapore. And I find the problem is that if I take ordination under the teacher I follow for 5 years, he's an Indonesian, and he doesn't have a permanent temple in Singapore. And the second teacher I follow, he also doesn't have a permanent temple in Singapore. He's only employed in the Shuangling Temple to look after in charge of the temple. And maybe it was because of my good karma that I have the opportunity to go to Taiwan. And when I first go to Taiwan, I went to the north, to the the Yanguang Buddhist College. Why I didn't go to Fo-Guang-Shan in the first place? Fo-Guang-Shan is being biased in Singapore. People talk, everything, gossips that is not good, whatever. I went to the Yanguang Buddhist College in the north, and after 1 year, I read about Fo-Guang-Shan and I know the true pictures. I realized I should go over there to Fo-Guang-Shan. And it was there that I took my 4 years 1 year in the English Buddhist College and 3 years in the Chinese Buddhist Research Institute. And from there that I learned most about nuns and Buddhism in Taiwan. I'm not too sure about the populations of the Sangha member in Taiwan because every year we have higher ordinations. I mean, some of the bigger temples, they hold the higher ordinations. But I would say majority, over 70% are nuns. And most temples are run by nuns and holding very high positions, different from our Theravada countries. For instance, we have one Venerable Zhen Yan. She is having the largest charity organization in Hualien. And also Xiao Wan, I think Xiao Yin, something means Xiao Wan, Ren Xiao Wan, she is the academics teacher and she has the vocational institute in the north. Whereas in Fo Guangshan, most of our senior posts are being held by nuns. It's entirely different from the Theravada countries. Just like our Venerable Chi Zhuang, she's the superintendent of all our overseas branches. Fo Guangshan has branches, I think, not less than 150 branches. When I refer to branches, I'm referring to temple and lecture hall and some gathering place. We have not less than 150 branches. And another, our Venerable Chiu Hui, she's the superintendent of 4 universities set up by Fo Guangshan, 2 in Taiwan, 1 in mainland China, Nanjing, and 1 in the Silai University. And also we have the Venerable Chi Rong. She's the Secretary General of BIA, and Venerable Chi Yi Kong, she's the Superintendent of the Cultural Departments. Most of our high-rank posts are being held by Bhikkhuni, and in the Theravada countries, we are trying to help the nuns to be more confident and to be more strong. But in Fo Guangshan, it's the reverse. My teacher is always saying, we must help our bhikkhu to be more confident in their work, to be more confident in their practice. It's the reverse, totally reverse. And in our monastery, about 80% of my teacher have more than 1,000 disciples, not less than 1,200. And about 80% are nuns, and I'm one of them. So gradually in these years, my teacher is always trying to give the monk in charge of the monastery. For the present moment, we have a few monasteries in charge by monks. One in Beihai, the northern part of Taiwan, and one in the north, in the south, Tainan, and another one in the Dongchan, is the new one under constructions. But most of the monastery and the branches are held by Bhikkhuni. And of course, I'm of Chinese traditions. We have our ordination in the Chinese traditions, which was brought from Sri Lanka during the 5th centuries. And others, people may wondering, I think some of the monks here was wondering, the traditions we follow, is this according to what the original traditions? Of course, the Dhammagutta is originally the Indian Hinayana traditions, and we follow the Theravada. Our precepts, we have 348 precepts, and we follow according to the Theravada tradition, except that we add more. Because Theravada have 311, we have 348. We add some more rules, and we follow accordingly. And in Taiwan, before I think, even before the 1990s, only temples, those temples who want to hold the higher ordination for monks and bhikkhunis, they have to take turns and given permit by the Chinese Buddhist Association. Fo Guangshan has a hard time to fight to hold for higher ordination. And it was in 1977 that we managed to secure a permit, because we need to get a permit from the Chinese Buddhist Association to hold a higher ordination. It was in 1997 that Fo Guangshan hold the first higher ordination. And after that, for 10 years, we couldn't get a permit because Also in Taiwan, people are against or they talk about Fo-Guang-San, this and that, and it's difficult for us to get permission from the Chinese Buddhist Chinese Association. That is why in 1988 we held another higher ordination, but that was in the USA, of which we also have many foreigner nuns who went for the ordination, just like our Venerable Dhamawati. She was one of them. Total we have 4 nuns from Nepal and 5 nuns from Sri Lanka. That was the first time that we have an ordination for international candidates. And in 1991, we had another ordination, and my master said, we don't have to wait permit from the Chinese Buddhist Association. They are not strong in Taiwan. For higher ordination, we need the 3 masters and the 7 witnesses. If I have the morality of the 7 master and the 3 master and the 7 witnessing acharya, I can hold an ordination. That was why in 1991 we held a 3 months higher ordination for monks and nuns. And during that period, it was the first time in Taiwan history, 40 years Taiwan history, that the ordination was held for 3 months. Other than that, our Chinese traditions, we only hold it for 1 month. And in 1992, we have one more higher ordination in Silai Temple. 1993, we have another higher ordination in Fo-Guang-San. And 1996, we have one more ordination in Fo-Guang-San, where in October 1996, one Sri Lankan student who studied in Fo-Guang-San, she took her higher ordination. And this year, 1998, we'll be having another one in Bodhgaya. Why we have this ordination, I think I have spoken the other day, I'm not going to mention again. And in Taiwan, most of the monasteries run by nuns are very active. They are doing the social work, like the one I referred to just now. Venerable Zhen Yuan is doing the charitable organization, whereas in Fo-Guang-San, we have 4 codes of our activities. First, we want to nurture talents to educations. If you go over to Fo-Guang-San, and you will see that the first block of building in Fo-Guang-San, the Eastern Buddhist College, is our first. It's not a temple that we have in Fo-Guang-San. My master always emphasized educations. We need educations. 40 years ago, when he first came from China to Taiwan, Buddhism in Taiwan seems to be only for the old age women, only for those who have passed away, because then you need monks to go and chant. But when my teacher came to Taiwan in the 1940s, he tried to turn it. Buddhism should be for the young. We need to nurture the youngster and give them educations. That's why when he set up Fo-Guang-San, he said the first block I want to have is education. We start with educations. And also when he does not have a temple, when he first came from Taiwan, his temple is set up in Yilan, in the northern part of Taiwan, where he organized activities for the youngster. He had them to India Chinese, and he gave them lecture, given Dharma. And that was the time also. During that time also, he gave them choir. The youngster, they like to sing. During that period, the youngster who go to the temple, people will think, oh, she has a broken heart affair. That's why she or he go to the temple. And my masters had to change this. Those youngs who come to temple because they want to learn. So he set up the choir and go to temple to sing. And he was criticized during that time. In a temple, you have youngsters shouting here and there, singing there and there. He was being criticized as the devil, the evil Buddhist practitioner. Because how can a temple have such thing, organized activities for the young to sing, and they come here making noise? But my master ignored what others criticize, what I'm doing for Buddhism. And it was through my master's hard work. No doubt he has been criticized being as a politician, monk, and other. They are much criticizing about him, but he all just throw it aside. What I'm doing for Buddhism, I do not care what people do. That's why we promote humanistic Buddhism. We want a life Buddhism. And now in Taiwan, you can see many people promoting humanistic Buddhism. But during the 1940s, people criticized, what is that? What is humanistic Buddhism? But after my master had so much activities and he ordered, arranged so much activities to do preaching in the hall, in the village, and start to walk towards the society. In the early days, Buddhism is only practiced in the forest, but my teacher had to bring up Buddhism should be towards the society. We have to work toward the societies. And now, at last, we have something to be proud of. Many of those monasteries or those Buddhist organizations in Taiwan who are organizing activities, they also promote humanistic Buddhism, and that's done us proud of what my master have done, has not been ignored. And talking about education, the young, we have not less than 10 Buddhist college, or we have the main one, the Chinese, the Women Buddhist College in Fo Guang Shan, Men Buddhist College in Fo Guang Shan, Female Buddhist College in the central part, Zhanghua, and a Female Buddhist College in Keelung, the northern part, and the Eastern Buddhist College. Eastern Buddhist College is for those who have a primary education or junior secondary education in Changi. And we have one Buddhist college in Malaysia, one in Hong Kong, and one in South Africa. And in South Africa, the Buddhist college, most of the students are the blacks from Congo. And when we went into Africa, and my master have his Dharma preaching in Africa, he realized the blacks, they are very innocent, and also they are so curious about Buddhism. And that's why when we have our largest temple in South Africa, we also set up a Buddhist college to educate the Congolese. And we also have an English Dharma college at Fo Guang Shan and a Japanese Buddhist college in Kaohsiung. Why we emphasize so heavily on education? Because through education, you can make people, because they themselves, the Sangha members, have to be educated in order they can educate the societies. But most of the students who come into our Buddhist college are lay people, and we also have some Sangha members from other temples, but very few, but most are lay people. When they study in Fo Guang Shan Buddhist College, we have a 2 years. It's up to your ability, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or even another 3 years in research institutions. It's up to one's ability to study. But when after 2 years in the institute, in the Buddhist college, and they cannot continue study, they can return to Fo Guang Shan to work for Fo Guang Shan. But after working for 1 year, they may be returned to the college. And also we have the Jain school now was set up in 1995, the Jain school for men and Jain school for women. Why during the 1967, when Fo Guang Shan was established, we do not have a Zen school? Because my master of enterprise, we need to work. We need to work. If you have good karma enough, if you don't have a good karma, how can you practice in a meditation hall, letting people to serve you doing nothing? So that's why during the early days, we do not have a Zen school. Until recently, after 30 years, my master said it's time that those who have worked in a community and they have accumulate themselves for more merits, that they can receive more merits in the Zen school, because in the Zen school, you don't have to work. You just have to study and meditations. Whereas like for myself, after graduate from the research institutions, I come out and I work for the international programs. And in most monasteries in Taiwan, I would say they are being paid a very good allowance. I have known a monk, or one monk I known in Bodhgaya, she got the allowance 15,000 NT dollars. I think it's not less than $400 a month from the monastery. And another nun I met in India, she also have a very good allowance from her temple, but from Fo Guang Shan, I have only 300 NT dollars a month for my job, what I'm doing now. There's about $10 US dollars. Why in Fo Guang Shan, we do not want to have the monk to have so much money? My master of enterprise, he said, if money is the evil of all roots, being Sangha member in Fo Guang Shan, everything is paid for you, from your clothing, from your food, if you are sick, medical treatments, and even if you are go overseas for official trips, the monastery will pay for it. So we do not need to have so much money. People may think Fo Guang Shan is very rich, but I'm sure the nuns are poor, people will not believe it, but of course we know it ourselves. For myself, 300 a month NT dollars for my job, and 550 a month for my rent, because in Fokongsan, beside the precepts, the Vinaya we are abiding to, we still have our Fokongsan own rules, and we have rents. For instance, when you becomes a nun, for the first 6 years, you will be called a purified, and after 6 years learning, you will be called a learner. I am now only a learner, and after learner, we have the cultivator. We follow according to our rank. So what I'm receiving to do works in Fokongsan is 300 for my job and 550 NT dollars for my rent as a nun in Fokongsan. And this is, I think this is the only practice is being done in Fokongsan monasteries. I don't think there's any temple in Taiwan they have set these kinds of rules. Only my master, he said this, we need to have rules in the monastic life. And just like we have law in the society, we need to have the rules in our monastic life beside our Vinaya. I do not have a very specified to give, just because I was thinking down here what to write, and that's all I can give. Is there any more thing as a sheet? I cannot recall because I was given the time to a few more seconds. So I think I'll finish off. My last one is that the 4 main working motto of Fokongsan is 1, to nurture talents to education, to promote Buddhism through culture, to purify human minds through practice, to benefit society through charitable programs. We do have charitable programs, but we always say we have emergency, we do not have the poor. To help the poor is endless, you cannot, but we have emergency, just like the Kobe earthquake, the flood in Bangladesh, the flood in Philippines, the earthquakes in, is it Mexico, I can't remember, the earthquake in Maharashtra. We have the emergency, we do not have the poor. But every year we do have, every December, winter, we do have a charitable where we will give to the poor, but this is only in December. But we do not just totally helping the poor. We have emergency, and those who are really in need, they have some emergency case in their family we will help, but not to help the poor. I think I'll finish off with it.
We want to thank all of our 5 speakers this morning, and we have about half an hour for any questions for the panelists. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please come up to the microphone.
Venerable Wonmo, you talked about the dual ordination ceremony in Korea and said that it has been continued. Could you explain more about the tradition of dual ordination in Korea, when it discontinued and when it started again, and how people view the importance of dual ordination, or do they? Yeah. Did I understand you to say that the dual ordination, erbu soje, with bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, yeah, this tradition of receiving bhikkhuni ordination from bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, has it always been in Korean Buddhism, in the Choge order, or has it discontinued at any time where the bhikkhunis were being ordained only by bhikkhus?
In front of bhikkhus, master, we receive the precepts, but the main concrete precepts are only received by bhikkhunis. the beginners must be pure in her life, and before seven beginners we receive our bikini precepts. But the certification must be in front of a picture. So we have two steps to receive our precepts. First, picture and bikini receive the precepts in front of many monks. And after that ceremony, we collect bikini and we receive our own precepts in front of bikini, 7 bikini. And their life must be pure.
When I received my bikini ordination in Korea, I received the bikini precepts from 10 bikunis in the morning. And then after lunch, we received a similar ceremony, whether it was a confirmation of our ordination by the bikunis, or whether we received them again from the bhikkhunis was not clear to me.
I think the ceremony was according to the written by Patimotika. So we, in order to fit the Patimotika, so we did that, like this, do like that. So when did you receive your precepts in Korea? When? What time? 82? Bikini. That time we have not concrete system. After later we have our regular system. At that time some are mixed. Because our bikini precepts must be kept by lay people and by